Questions 21 through 25 on the 2009 Grade 8 AMC 8. Andy and Bethany have a rectangular array of numbers with 40 rows and 75 columns. Andy adds the numbers in each row. The average of his 40 sums is A. Bethany adds the number in each column. The average of her 75 sums is B. What is the value of A over B? The rows, if you add them up, row 1 plus row 2, and so on, all the way up until the last row, which is row 40, that they're saying if you take the average of that, which would be divided by 40, is equal to A. So that basically means that if you were to cross multiply, this would become R1 plus R2 all the way up until R40 is equal to 48. And in a very similar way, if you look at the columns, column 1 plus column 2 all the way up until column 75, if you take the average of those, divide by 75, they're saying that it equals B. If you cross multiply that, C1 plus C2 all the way until C75 will be equal to 75B. Now, keep in mind that when you add up all the rows, that sum is the same as if you add up all the columns, because you've essentially added up all the numbers in both scenarios. So that means that this is equivalent to this. So that means 40A is equal to 75B. And if you want to get the ratio A over B, you just put A over B and then make sure you do the other side properly. And there you go, 75 over 40. And in lowest terms, this is 15 over 8. So number 21, the answer is D. How many whole numbers between 1 and 1,000 do not contain the digit 1? So between 1 and 1,000 means 2 to 999 inclusive. And how many of those numbers are there? First of all, in total, 998. So of those 998, how many do not contain 1? So what we'll do is look at how many do contain 1, and then we'll subtract it from 998. So if you look at just sort of a breakdown, if you look at single digit numbers, there's going to be 2, 3, all the way up until 9, right? And none of those contain a 1. So our tally is 0 so far. Now look at double digit. If I do that, then every number from 10 to 19, that has a 1 in it, and that's 10 of them. And then all the ones like 21, 31, all the way up until 91, those will all have 1s. And there's 8 of those. So this brings my tally up to 18. Now we have to start looking at triple digits. Well, the first triple digit one is fairly easy. That's the one that involves the hundreds. So every one from 100 to 199, all of those will have a 1 in it, and there's 100 of those. And now we get into the triple digits like 200 to 299 and so on. That one, well, 201 has a 1. Every single number from 210 to 219 will have a 1. And then 221, 231, all up until 291, those kinds of numbers. So let's start tally. This is 1. This gives me 10. And then these guys, there's 8 of those. So this is 19. Okay, so I'm ready to calculate the full. I've got 18 here. Then I have 100. And then for each of the intervals, 200 to 299, 300 to 399, there's going to be 19. So how many of those intervals? There's 8, right? 200s, 300s, 400s, all the way up until 900s. So there's 8 of those guys, and each of those will have a 19 numbers that have a 1 in it. So this total is 118 plus 152, and that is 270. So 270 numbers have a 1. We want all the numbers that do not contain a 1. So take my total and subtract 270, So 998 minus 270, and that is equal to 728. So number 22, the answer is D. On the last day of school, Mrs. Wonderful gave jelly beans to her class. She gave each boy as many jelly beans as there were boys in the class. She gave each girl as many jelly beans as there were girls in the class. She brought 400 jelly beans, and when she was finished, she had 6 jelly beans left. There were two more boys, than girls in her class. How many students were in her class? So first and foremost, let's take a stab at that. That means that B is equal to G plus 2, where B is boys and G is girls. 2 more boys than girls. And then she brought 400, but then she had 6 left. That means she gave out 400 minus 6. So she gave out 394. So for each boy, she gave out, to each, the number of boys. So for example, there's 7 boys. Each boy got 7 jelly beans, right? That's what this whole thing means. And very similarly, for each girl, she gave out G jelly beans. So if there was, 5 girls, each of them got 5 jelly beans. And that equals 394. So what we can do is substitute this. And if we do, we got G plus 2 squared plus G squared is equal to 394. This gives me G squared plus 4G plus 4 plus G squared is equal to 394. Put everything on one side and you get 2G squared plus 4G minus 390 is equal to 0. And then divide through by 2 and you get G squared plus 2G minus 195 is equal to 0. And I think this factors pretty well. And if you do, you get G 13, 15, plus minus. So therefore, the only positive value for G is 13. And therefore, since B is equal to G plus 2, B is equal to 15. And the number of students in the class are 13 plus 15, which is 28. So number 23, the answer is B. The letters A, B, C, and D all represent different digits. If AB plus CA is DA and AB minus CA is A, what does the D represent? All right. Well, the first thing I notice is that B plus A is A. So that must mean that B is equal to 0. Okay, so we got 1. Now let me just concentrate on this here. And when I do, I notice that, actually very quickly, I noticed that that's very similar. If I add up everything, hopefully this will help me because these two will cancel. So if I add up everything, I get AB plus CA. And I'll add this to it, which is AB minus CA. And then, of course, I have to add the other sides, which is DA plus A. As planned, these two cancel, so I'm just left with 2AB is equal to DA plus A. But remember, this represents a number, right? It's really 10A plus B. These are digits. So if we write it properly, this is the correct format. And very similarly, this is 10D plus A, like that. Now, we already established that B is equal to 0, so I can put that in there. 10A plus 0, and this becomes 10D plus 2A. Divide through by 2, and we get 10A is equal to 5D plus A, and then bring the A over and get 9A is equal to 5D. The only way this can be true if A and D are single digits is if A is equal to 5 and D is equal to 9, right? Because 9 times 5 is the equivalent of 5 times 9. So we just got D is equal to 9, and that is the answer to the question. 24 is E. And if you plug it all back in, you'll be able to get the value for C. Just in case you're wondering, it'll be 4. And that completes the question. A 1 cubic foot cube is cut into 4 pieces by 3 cuts parallel to the top face of the cube. The first cut is 1 foot from the top face, the second cut is 1/3 foot below the first cut, and the third cut is 1/17 foot below the second cut. From the top to bottom, the pieces are labeled A, B, C, D. The pieces are then glued together end to end in the order C, B, A, D to make a long solid as shown below. What is the total surface area of this solid in square feet? There is a short way and a long way. The long way obviously is very time consuming, so I'll show you the short way. The short way is to look at this diagram closely and realize that first you look at the top faces, and all of those top faces have an area of 1 times 1. And since that's equal to 1, this is 1, that's 1, that's 1, and that's 1. So the top faces give you a total of 4. Similarly, the bottom faces, which you can't see, but they'd be exactly the same, will also give you a surface area of 4. Now we have to look at these guys right here, the ones that are facing me. If you look at it closely, if you stack those together, they would essentially make up one full side of the square. So that is going to give you just 1 times 1, which is equal to 1. And on the other side, which would be that, it'd be exactly the same. You'd get another 1 times 1, which is equal to 1. So far, we have a total of 10. We've taken care of the top, we've taken care of the bottom, and we've taken care of the sides, that side and the other side that you can't see. Now I just have to look at this and the other side. Well, this part here, if you look at this carefully, you'll notice it really is equivalent to just A, like that, right? Because for A, that is the only part that we need to count, but for B, we count that, and then for C, we count that. If you add it all up, its top to bottom height is the same as the top to bottom height of A. And the width or the length from here to here is 1. So that surface area is 1/2 times 1, which is 1/2. And on the other side, you can't see it, but it would be exactly the same. You'd be looking at that and you'd be looking at this, and together they are essentially the same as A, the surface area of that side of A. So that gives you another 1/2. So totaling up 10 plus 1/2 and 1/2, you get 11. Now there's of course a much longer way where you look at each individual piece, but that is going to be very time consuming considering you only have 40 minutes for 25 questions. So for number 25, the answer is E.